right, boys, prepare to be dazzled.
Welcome to Real Fixes Real Fast. I'm Dwayne Marriage and I'll be your host.
Here's something to think about. To a car, as the technician, you are the doctor. Now let me illustrate that. Here's Motor Magazine, and if you look, May 2008 is the issue, and on the cover picture you'll see what looks like surgery. You've got the surgeon there, he's got his gloves on, the patient's draped, he's got tools out, and he's performing surgery. And in the bottom right-hand corner it says the automotive brain transplant. In other words, he's making the comparison here between medical surgery and automotive repair. On the inside you'll see the editor's report, John Lipin. He makes this statement inside his article, and I'd like to read it to you. He says the days of the 90-step diagnostic procedure are over, and that we need to do something different than this incremental step-by-step approach. Now this 90-step procedure is trouble trees. You all know what trouble trees are. They basically ask a question, you answer yes or no, they lead you down to another question, you answer yes or no, and hopefully it will take you down to the repair. Isn't always the case. Sometimes it can be pretty frustrating. Anyway, he goes on to say, we need to begin a diagnostic routine by selecting the single most appropriate path from a suite of possibilities. The growing importance of enhanced search capabilities in electronic information systems and the use of case-based tools that use historical records to report the most likely cause of a problem, similar to what's being done in the medical field today.
What?
I know that sounds like a lot of talk, a lot of words, but if you read it closely, he's really saying some remarkable things about the new way to do automotive diagnostics. The single most appropriate path from a suite of possibilities. In other words, the one way out of many ways to find the fix for the car. Use case-based tools that use historical records, similar to what's being done in the medical field today. Now, am I saying that doctors and surgeons use case-based tools with historical information to find the way to fix people? You betcha. That's what they do all the time. You know, they have a medical study, they get patients, they perform procedures, they test medicines, they put all this information together historically in a case-by-case basis. They review all that and they come up and they find the most likely way of fixing someone. Identifix, which is a great source for automotive information. This is in their August 2008 issue. They said the next time that you select a doctor, the most important question to ask a doctor after you've been provided a diagnosis is, what did you base this diagnosis on? Why? Because today the most important medical breakthrough is a new approach to diagnosis called evidence-based medicine.
May I see it? He hands over the wallet. As the guy reaches for it, Merriweather goes for his gun. That guy shoots him first.
You think this is a street crime?
In my gut, yeah.
You know my problem with gut feelings? Once you have them, the only evidence you see is the evidence that reinforces your gut feeling. Human nature.
Gut feelings and human nature. They're just not going to cut it anymore. What we need is evidence. I'd like to thank 20th Century Fox and that movie Sentinel for that little clip. Remember, to the car, you are the doctor. You are the one who needs to find the evidence. And just like a detective needs evidence to prove a case, a drivability tech needs evidence to prove their case. So, how do we as mechanics, technicians, do this same thing? Case-based tools that use historical records. What is all that? Where do you get that information? Well, this is the old way. Service manuals that we used to read through, but they really just provided theoretical information and they didn't really lead us to the fix. This was not case-based information. What we have today is online information. All data, a great source for information. Now it is truly heavy in the theoretical information, but it's a great source. It's searchable. You can put in a keyword and go right to your area. Mitchell, another source of great information. IATN now is case-based. You can look up a specific car with a specific problem and even use search features, and it'll take you to the case-based information over time history that provides the fix. And another great source is Identifix. Both of these I'd recommend. They're going to lead you to real fixes real fast. An example is an 04 Isuzu Rodeo, which we had in our shop, and we knew we had an intake leak, and the intake gasket was going to have to be replaced. Not necessarily a hard job, but not necessarily easy either. Anyway, a quick check with Identifix before we began told us that the upper intake did not need to be separated from the lower in order to change the gasket, and that's what we were just about ready to do. It says in there that you simply need to leave the two together, raise them together, and then the gasket will simply slide out. You can slide the new gasket in. It's going to save you a lot of time. As long as we're comparing mechanics and doctors, treat your peers with respect. Don't badmouth your peers, other shops, and other technicians. Doctors don't do that. They also don't claim to be the only doctor that can treat someone. They consult and they refer when a problem is outside of their practice or their specialty.